Well, Sandeep Chakravarti, Joint Secretary, Europe West, Ministry of External Affairs, was addressing press conference, informed that the three agreements were signed coinciding with the summit. One was between Stock Exchange and State Bank of India. Second, Luxembourg Stock Exchange and India International Stock Exchange. And third, between Lux Innovation and Invest India. The agreement between Lux Innovation and Invest India also signed very good prospects of India and Luxembourg on financial collaboration.
Of Luxembourg and India took place almost 20 years back when the then Prime Minister of Luxembourg, Jean-Claude Juncker, visited India. Our Prime Ministers had met on several occasions in the past, but this was the first formal structured meeting. The meeting focused on constructive engagement on our bilateral relationship, and especially giving the strengths of the Luxembourg economy and our needs. It focused on the financial sector, it focused on fintech, on green financing, and on space applications. They also discussed people-to-people ties. There was also discussion, a great deal of discussion, on deepening business ties between the two countries. As you all know, Luxembourg is a founding member of the EU, and in this context, the two leaders exchanged views on further strengthening India-EU relations, including forward movement on India-EU trade agreements and investment agreements. There was also discussions on multilateral cooperation and achieving effective and reformed multilateralism. Global issues like terrorism and climate change were also discussed. The two sides shared the commitment for working towards effective and reformed multilateralism. Prime Minister Modi highlighted the challenge the global community faces from terrorism and the need to eradicate it in all its forms and manifestations. Views were also exchanged on climate change, and Prime Minister Bettel conveyed the intention of Luxembourg to join the International Solar Alliance. Prime Minister Modi invited Luxembourg to join the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. There was also a lot of discussion on the COVID situation, on the vaccine development, and also the infrastructure for vaccine delivery. And there was a lot of discussion on how the two countries could cooperate in the pandemic, fighting the pandemic, and also on post-pandemic recovery. Three agreements were signed coinciding with the summit. One was between the Luxembourg Stock Exchange with State Bank of India and with the India International Stock Exchange, and the third agreement was between Lux Innovation and Invest India. It was also agreed that both sides will institute regular Foreign Office consultations. Prime Minister Bettel invited Prime Minister Modi to visit Luxembourg, and Prime Minister Modi reiterated and reciprocated the invitation to Prime Minister Bettel to visit India. That's my opening remarks, Anwar.
Thank you, Sandeep. Moving on to the questions. I'll start with a question from Siddhant from the WION. He wants to know anything on the India-EU FTA. Was it discussed?
As you know, Luxembourg is a founding member of the EU and plays a special role within the EU. And in all conversations with EU member states, the trade agreement with EU is discussed. As you know, in the 15th summit held on July 15, the two leaders, the European leaders and Prime Minister Modi had agreed to set up a high-level mechanism. And now we didn't have a trade commissioner in the EU for some time now. We have a new trade commissioner. He has written to our honorable CIM, and discussions are on soon having the meeting of the high-level mechanism. In fact, today the subcommission on India-EU trade has met, and there is forward movement, and as soon as the dates of the meeting are discussed, this mechanism will take on the task of starting the negotiations or the discussions on India-EU trade and investment agreement.
The next question is from Sandeep Dixit from the Tribune. Are there plans to raise debt/investment from Luxembourg?
It's a very relevant question in the context of Luxembourg, because Luxembourg Stock Exchange and funds based out of Luxembourg are the third largest investors into India. As far as I know, foreign portfolio investments from Luxembourg total more than 3 lakh crores, and after US and Mauritius, Luxembourg is the largest portfolio investor in India. They have also set up the Green Exchange, and they're also very innovative financing mechanisms available in Luxembourg. Prime Minister Vettel mentioned this in great detail and asked Prime Minister Modi to encourage Indian companies to raise capital for environment friendly or green projects in Luxembourg. And the point which I want to also make is that many Indian companies have raised. The first masala bonds were raised in Luxembourg. Many Indian companies have GDRs in Luxembourg, and the figure is more than 12 to 13 billion dollars, and many Indian companies are listed in the Luxembourg Stock Exchange. So it's a very vibrant and dynamic financial sector relationship between India and Luxembourg. We are also going to have very soon an agreement between the financial regulators, that is CSSF of